Alright class, this is the homework for section 4.1, and we're only going to be doing the odd problems here. Alright, so let's start with number 1. Here in exercises 1 through 6, we're asked to solve the equation by graphing. So make sure that you have your calculator for this part. So number 1, my quadratic equation is x squared minus 6x plus 5 equals 0. So if we want to graph it, go to new document, add a graph, and we're going to be graphing both of these, x squared minus 6x plus 5 and also y equals 0. So the first one I'm going to do the quadratic, so that's x squared minus 6x plus 5, and I'm going to add another graph, so graph entry, function, and f of x equals 0. So from here, I can see that my graph, my quadratic, and my y equals 0, they intersect at x equals 1 and at x equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is my solution. X equals 1 and x equals 5. So those are my answers. Right. Number 3, my quadratic is x squared minus 25. Now here we can easily see that it's plus and minus 5. 5 squared minus 25 is 25 minus 25, which is 0, so that checks. And then negative 5 squared is also 25, and then 25 minus 25 is 0. So let's double check that in our calculator. So the only one that I'm going to change is this one here. So it's x squared minus 25. Enter. Yeah. So in my graph, I can see that it intersects at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, positive 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5, just as we predicted. So x equals plus or minus 5. Alright, number 5. My equation is 12 equals x squared minus 4. Now for this, I need to manipulate it a bit. I need it to read some equation equals 0. So I need to move some stuff around, or I can do it as 0 equals some equation. I'm going to go for this one since I only have to move the 12 in this direction. So if I do that, I subtract 12 from both sides, subtract 12, and I'm left with 0 is equal to x squared negative 4 minus 12 is negative 16. So now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to our calculator. I'm changing this one, and it's x squared minus 16. So in my graph, I can see that they intersect at 1, 2, 3, 4, positive 4. So x equals 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. X equals negative 4. So plus and minus 4 as well. Alright, number 7. Number 7 here, we're asked to solve the equation using square roots. So that's the different method that we're going to learn. That's simply getting rid of the square root. And I'll show you guys what I mean by that. So on number 7, my equation is t squared is equal to 100. T squared equals 100. And if we want to solve this using our square root properties, then all I have to do is just get rid of the square here using the inverse operation. So the square root. So if we square root one side, we have to do the same thing to the other side. Here, the square root of t squared is t, and then the square root of 10 is plus or minus 10. Every time you take a square root, remember you have to take the plus and the negative sign as well. Right. So that is our answer there. Number 8, our equation is g squared is equal to 64. Same thing, we're going to take the square root of both sides. That leaves us with g is equal to plus or minus 8. And we're done. Alright. Oh, I did them right for you guys. Number 9 says y plus 2 squared is equal to 16. Here we're going to do the same thing. Don't get scared here. We still want to get rid of the square, so we do the square root of both sides. This leaves us with whatever's inside the square root. So that's y plus 2 is equal to, and again we're taking the square root, so take both the plus and the minus 4. So here we're going to have two answers. First we have to solve y plus 2 is equal to positive 4. So we subtract 2 from both sides, and that leaves us with y is equal to 4 minus 2 is positive 2. So that's one of our answers. And then the other equation that we have to solve is this negative part. So that's y plus 2 is equal to negative 4. Same thing, we subtract 2 from both sides, and that leaves us with y is equal to negative 6. So again, two answers. Alright, moving on. Number 11. Number 11 says solve the equation by factoring. Right, so here's a different method that we learned. Number 11. Our equation is zero is equal to x squared minus 4x plus 4. Alright, so here I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to positive 4 and add up to negative 4. Well, those two numbers are negative 2 and negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, and negative 2 plus negative 2 is negative 4. And all I have to do there is just add my x's. Right. So here's my quadratic equation factored in factored form, and now all I have to do is just solve each of these for 0. They are the same one, so all I have to do is just solve for 1 and then I'm done. So here I have to solve x minus 2 is equal to 0. So we add 2 to both sides, and that leaves us with x is equal to positive 2. Alright. Number 13. Number 13 reads m squared plus 4m is equal to 0. So here's a bit different. I don't have that third term. So the factoring that we're going to do here is GCF. So we're going to pull out everything that we see that both terms have in common. Here I have two m's, m squared, and then here I have 1. So that's what I'm going to pull out. I'm going to pull out 1m. M. And then here I'm left over with an m, and then my 4m I'm just left over with the 4 is equal to 0. Once we factored it, we set both of our factors equal to 0, and that should be our answer. So m is equal to 0, so I'm done there. That's one of my solutions. And the other one is m plus 4 is equal to 0. And here I have to subtract 4 from both sides, and I'm left with m is equal to negative 4. Two answers. And I'm done with that part. Alright, number 15 is a bit fun. Here it says find the value of x and gives us a condition. The area of a circle is equal to 9 pi. And then here we have a circle with the radius of x minus 4. Well, I know that my area for a circle is pi r squared. If you guys don't remember that, you can look on your formula charts. Once I know that, I can just go ahead and plug in the pieces that I know. Pi, I'm going to go ahead and leave as pi for now, since my area is in terms of pi. And my radius is x minus 4, so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in for radius. When you plug it in, don't forget that you need to put parentheses around it, and then 9 pi I'm going to go ahead and plug in for my area. So that's 9 pi is equal to pi times x minus 4 squared. So here if I want to solve for x, I need to get rid of everything else that's bothering it right now. There's two things, the pi in front of it and then the square. I'm going to get rid of the pi first. Since we're solving, we have to use reverse GEMDAS. And multiplication comes before exponents in reverse GEMDAS. So here, since I'm multiplying by pi, to get rid of it, I have to divide both sides by pi. Divide both sides by pi. And I'm left with 9 is equal to, since pi over pi reduces to 1, I'm left with 9 is equal to x minus 4 squared. Now it looks familiar. To get rid of the square, I just have to take the square root of both sides. And since we're taking the square root, I have to take both the positive and the negative 3. And I'm left with x minus 4. Once we're here, we're going to solve two equations. X minus 4 is equal to positive 3. And x minus 4 is equal to negative 3. So we add 4 to both sides. And on this part, I'm left with x is equal to 7. And here, I add 4 to both sides, and I'm left with x is equal to positive 1. So if we look at our circle here, our radius is x minus 4. If x is equal to 7, like the solution that I came up here, then my radius would be equal to 7 minus 4, which is 3. So that makes sense. That's okay. However, if it equals 1, 1 minus 4 is negative 3. Having a negative radius makes no sense, since the radius is actually a distance or a measurement. So you cannot accept this. So the only solution in this case is positive 7. Alright. Number 17. Number 17 reads, solve the equation using any method and explain your reasoning. So number 17 here, I am going to go ahead and use our factoring method that we used on number 13. So here, that's 7v is equal to v squared. 7v equals v squared. I'm going to move all terms to one side, so I get some equation is equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract v from both sides. And here I get 0 is equal to v squared minus 7v. I'm going to factor out the like terms so that 0 is equal to v. Here, if I take out 1v, I'm left with one of them. And then here, I'm just left with the 7. Now I set both factors equal to 0. So v equals 0. And v minus 7 is equal to 0. Here I'm done already. And then here I have to add 7 to both sides. So v is equal to positive 7. And I'm done there. Alright, number 19. That's going to be our last one for today. Number 19 reads, oh Jesus, x squared minus 5x minus 24 is equal to 0. So here we're going to use the same method that we used in number 1. Number 1. So here I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 24 and add to negative 5. So I'm going to make myself a little chart here. This is going to be my multiplication, and then this is going to be my addition chart. So the factors of 24 are, the first ones that I can think of is 6 and 4. And if I add these, I get 10. And if I change the sign of one of them, then I get either, well, I want a negative, right? So one of them has to be negative. So I can't take 10. However, 6 plus negative 4 is negative 2. Or if I do it the other way around, negative 6 times negative 4, I get negative 6 times positive 4, sorry, I get, oh, this should be positive 2, and then this one would be negative 2. So none of those two work. The next two that I can think of is 8 and 3. One of them has to be negative. Let's do the 3 first. 8 plus negative 3 is positive 5. I have the 5, I just need to change the sign, so in that case I'm just going to change the signs and that should fix it. So negative 8 times positive 3 is negative 24, and then if I add these two I get negative 5. So those two are my factors there. Once I have those, I can write my quadratic in factored form. So that's x minus 8 times x plus 3, since it's a positive 3, is equal to 0. Once I have it like this, all I have to do is just set both of my factors equal to 0. So that's x minus 8 equals 0 and x plus 3 is equal to 0. Here I can see that it's x equals 8 and x equals negative 3. And we are done. Alright guys, that's it for section 4.1 homework. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments and I'll get to them as quickly as I can.